A heroic and fantastic option for the A10 Thunderbolt II. The legendary A-10 attack aircraft, the Beard Stalker, was affectionately nicknamed in the Army. The airplane, adopted into service in 1976, has served America well. It fought in the Persian Gulf and Iraq, striking the Taliban. To this day, the A-10 Thunderbolt II is the only U.S. Air Force aircraft designed and used exclusively for close air support missions. Therefore, the U.S. Air Force has extended the service life of the attack aircraft until 2040. Moreover, it's going to be modernized, and not only its electronics, but even its wings. In this video, we'll tell the new prospects of the aviation veteran. There are several variants of its fate, one heroic, another fantastic, which seems simply incredible for an airplane that's crossed the half-century anniversary. Born at the height of the Cold War to defeat columns of Soviet armored vehicles, the A-10 proved defenseless against modern anti-aircraft systems. According to American experts, the bearded man cannot even get close to tanks and BMPs under the cover of Russian anti-aircraft systems Tor M2, M3, Buk M2, and Tunguska. It's clearly visible on their radar and will be shot down at the range limit of these systems before it can use its weapons. So there's an opinion that American attack aircraft will not be able to take to the air at all, as Russia has long-range means to disable NATO's operational airfields in Europe. The Pentagon understands all this perfectly well, therefore the existing fleet of 281 attack aircraft will be reduced by 44 airplanes, which have the shortest service life left. The rest, as we've already said, will be modernized by installing new communications equipment and new wings. Actually, the replacement for the A-10 Thunderbolt II in modern warfare was supposed to be the F-35 Lightning II, low observable for radar and capable of operating from field sites. But the replacement proved too unequal. The Lightning II has proven far more effective in close air support than just the Lightning II. Although both in terms of cost and operating expenses, the F-35 is markedly superior to its competitor. The A-10 costs $18.8 million and costs about $17,000 per flight hour. The F-35 has similar figures of $82 million and $45,000 respectively. For all its vulnerability, the A-10 is armed with the world's most powerful air cannon, the legendary 30mm Gatling with a 1,350-round ammunition capacity. In combat, its unique sound seems like divine music to U.S. soldiers, but to the enemy, funeral music. The attack aircraft also has 11 suspension points for various weapons. It can carry 2 AIM-9 guided air-to-air missiles, 6 AGM-65 guided air-to-surface missiles, 4 blocks of Hydra 70 unguided missiles, or 6 blocks of Zuni missiles, and virtually all types of bombs, high explosives, incendiary, cluster, and guided bombs. For example, 24 Mk-82 bombs weighing 227 kilograms, or 6 Mk-84 bombs weighing 908 kilograms. The total weight of weapons on board is 7,257 kilograms. The F-35 boasts a 25mm cannon with 181 rounds and just 2 satellite or laser-guided bombs in internal bays. More weapons can be placed on pylons under the wings, but then the low observability for radar disappears. So how's the U.S. going to use the Beard Stalker, this truly unique airplane? It should be understood that with a very high probability, the Warthog under the U.S. flag will not take part in high-intensity conflicts, so in conflicts with a technologically advanced enemy. To get away from diplomatic language and put it bluntly, the A-10 and the U.S. Army will not fight Russia and China. If God forbid such a clash occurs, it'll be an exchange of nuclear strikes, and it'll not be a matter of bearded men. And in a war against countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria, a 50-year-old attack aircraft will be good for many years to come. For example, according to the U.S. military, Thunderbolts during the war in Iraq were able to destroy more than 1,000 Iraqi tanks, up to 2,000 units of other military equipment, and 1,200 artillery installations of all kinds. The attack aircraft did more than any other aircraft in the U.S. Air Force. No wonder the Pentagon plans to keep it in service until 2040. Above all, we intentionally emphasized several times that the A-10 Thunderbolt II has little chance of fighting under the U.S. flag against a high-tech enemy. And if not under the U.S. flag, and then my thoughts immediately turned to long-suffering Ukraine, which is desperately bleeding to death fighting the huge Russian bear. For more than 2 years of fighting, its combat aviation has been practically knocked out. Now, NATO countries are planning to deliver several dozen F-16s to the country. Accordingly, several dozen Ukrainian pilots are being trained in the United States, Romania, Britain, and Denmark. But first, a few dozen F-16s in a war against Russia are desperately small. Second, the F-16 is not a close air support aircraft. Ukraine uses Soviet Su-25s for that purpose. But as we said, there are very few of them left. So why not send A-10s to fight under the Ukrainian flag with Ukrainian pilots at the helm? In January, Alexander Syrsky, then commander of the ground forces and now commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian army, told Reuters in an interview, "I would talk about the A-10 as one of the options if they're given to us. This is not a new vehicle, but a reliable one that has proven itself in many wars and has a wide range of weapons for destroying ground targets to assist infantry," the Colonel General said at the time. "It's designed to destroy ground targets, tanks, and artillery, anything that opposes infantry." Indeed, why wouldn't the U.S. send them? There are now more than 220 such aircraft in service with the U.S. Army, and in about 20 years they'll have to be decommissioned in any case. After all, the service life of these machines will be 60 to 70 years, and decommissioning is an expense, and not a small one. Yes, there are hundreds of airplanes in the Nevada desert, and they're slowly decomposing there. But this equipment must be inspected, for which we have to keep hundreds of technicians in the dumps, who are instructed to control the condition of the decommissioned machines. And so the beard walkers would have done their last duty to the United States. Yes, the United States, because if Ukraine loses, the U.S. will have to sharply reduce credibility in the international arena, with all the ensuing consequences, including for the dollar. When sending A-10s to Ukraine, the issue of training Ukrainian pilots immediately arises. An airplane is a very complex mechanism consisting of many systems and subsystems, so for its operation, apart from pilots, it's necessary to train engine engineers, gunners, hydraulics, electromechanics, electronics radiometricians, and gunners. The F-16 fighter is not the Soviet MiG-29 that Ukrainian pilots fly. It's a completely different airplane, created by a different design school and even in different metrics. But things look a little different with the A-10. The pilot's similar in tactics to the Soviet Su-25 attack aircraft, and pilots could be retrained from the Su-25 to the A-10 at a lower cost than the F-16, if only because the A-10's tactics are much simpler. By the way, the Beard fighter was also not characterized by a lot of electronics like various radars, as it was prepared for one thing: to fly at low altitude and demolish everything in its path with missiles, bombs, and its famous supergun. And then, there will be reasoning, which may seem cynical to many, but this is the logic of war and the survival of the nation. According to this logic, many Ukrainian engineers and technicians, and even qualitatively for the A-10, cannot be trained. Why? The life of an attack aircraft is not very long, and even in the conditions of modern warfare, when the front line is simply bristling with various anti-aircraft weapons, even more so. Realistically, the life of the A-10 in Ukraine will be heroic, but very short. Everything's against them here, and Russian airplanes, SAMs, and the state, and the lack of normal maintenance. But 40-year-old airplanes will be able to make a dozen sorties and do some damage to the Russians, but pilots will die. Yes, Ukrainian pilots will die, but this is war, and they're fighting for the existence of their state. In any case, they'll be more useful at the wheel of an old but still very capable airplane than in a trench where they'll end up if Ukraine runs out of airplanes. It's clear that if the Russian Su-35 fighter of Generation 4+ with its long-range missiles catches the A-10 in the sky, the fate of the attack aircraft will not be much different from the fate of Ukrainian Su-25s, more than a dozen of which were shot down by Russian pilots. But the Ukrainians flew them anyway. The A-10 is absolutely no good against Russian fighters or air defense systems, but against ground targets on the battlefield, it's a real fear of God. I would very much like the Pentagon to realize these simple thoughts and send bearded fighters to Ukraine. Moreover, unlike F-16s, they do not need any improvements of runways on Ukrainian airfields. So the A-10 is a very good option for the Ukrainians. The airplane is very rugged and reliable. The 30mm 7-barrel monster called the GAU-8 Avenger aircraft gun fires projectiles of every descent striking power made of depleted uranium at a rate of 4,200 rounds per minute. Its armor can withstand the old Soviet man-pad Strela 2M and Strela 3M, and some experts believe it can withstand the more modern Russian Igla and Verba as well. Guided and unguided missiles, air-to-air and air-to-surface, plus more than 24 guided precision-guided GBU-39 bombs with a range of more than 100 kilometers, the attack aircraft has a decent arsenal for the destruction of the enemy. We don't want to end our story about the legendary airplane on such a heroic but minor note. Therefore, we'll talk about another option for the future fate of the bearded man. Now not heroic, but fantastic. The Pentagon's considering plans to entrust the A10 Thunderbolt II with strikes by expensive but well-armed drones. Recall that such a feature they want to equip the 6th-generation aircraft, which are still in the process of being built. But we're afraid that such a function will require a deep modernization of the Beardwalker. For example, to create a space for the drone operator. But if it comes to life, it'll give the airplane a truly second wind. Imagine this picture. An attack aircraft delivers a drone to the battlefield, and maybe more than one. While staying out of the enemy's air defense zone, the drone strikes and returns on its own airfield. If the drone destroys the enemy air defense, then the attacking aircraft itself can take part in the battle, striking with bombs, missiles, and cannon bursts. And that's where we finish our story about the real military laborer of the sky. We'd be happy to see your comments and thumbs up and subscribe to our channel about modern weapons. See you soon.